We're like stuck in our 5-year-old selves sometimes. Let's say like somebody, has that like internal critic that's constantly like, don't even risk starting a new job because you're just gonna fail. When I tried something new last time, or when I was 4 years old, I failed, I was shamed. I will now protect this part of me that wants to try things new and that is able to try and that is able to be courageous. But when you're able to get close enough to that part and let it know that, hey, right now, guess what? I'm not that 5-year-old kid anymore. I'm good now. And I know that even if I fail, I'm still gonna be okay. Because guess what? I have a self. I am a self that is essentially okay.
I guess I wrote a list of questions and we're totally not stuck to them. We're just going to take this in the direction of how our conversation usually goes, which is everywhere and anywhere, which I love. But I think the best way to start this is to just introduce yourself and give a little bit of a background of who you are. Like a personal, what do you do for your job? Things like that.
Cool. Okay, hello. Hi.
For all those who can't see, Chana's waving awkwardly. Love it.
I'm looking how are you feeling right now?
I'm a little nervous, honestly. Okay. Which is funny because like everything that I want to say, like I like deeply believe, like it's so like I don't want to say like everything that I am planning, quote unquote, to say. It's like only stuff that like I actually fully know. It's like weird, like like it's really truthful to me. So like I'm not nervous about like what I'm gonna say. It's just like talking is scary sometimes. Yeah. But anyways, I will answer your question.
You wanna be able to like deliver it, but yeah.
I'm Chana. I live in Crown Heights currently. I have my social work degree, but I do not practice. I am actually currently teaching in base rivka high school. Because I feel like having teachers can help a lot of people down the road in therapy. Like people go to therapy a lot because they never had like a teacher or never had anybody in high school that kind of was able to just like have those like few conversations with them when they needed them. And it kind of gets built up into this like whole big story, and whole big like self-image thing when really like if somebody would just to stop them and be like, hi, I noticed that you're feeling tired. Like, do you want to talk about it? So yeah, kind of.
That's really cool. How is that, by the way, teaching? What age do you teach?
Hard.
That must be so hard.
Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm like learning on the job. Like,
like
I'm enjoying.
I'm sure they love you.
And Chana, I think that's so cool. Thanks. Like, I really think it's the most impressive thing when people give back to the community that they came from, and like, I love that philosophy. It's because we all had teachers in our life that we remember as being like integral to us, like getting to the place where we are, and just being that kind of person is amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. Yeah. Exactly. And also, most people just sit around and complain about it. Like we need this change, we need that change. But then when people are actually being the change, that's what's
cool.
Awesome to see.
But besides for that, we're going to talk about IFS. So it's called the internal family systems. Yeah. It's a form of therapy, and you're really, really attached to this form of therapy and like think that it's great. And I want to know why. But before we get into all of that, can you give us a little brief synopsis of what IFS is? Go ahead. Go off.
Sure. Yeah. I'm so excited. Okay. So IFS is internal family systems, as you said. It was created by this guy named Richard Schwartz. His mom wasn't Jewish, which I have a hard time believing because, like, I don't know. Like, I wonder if she was secretly Jewish. Like, everything he says is, like, pure neshama, so it's kind of whatever. Yeah. He's a very enlightened person. Anyways, though, let's see if I can do this without any tangents. We're going to try. Basically, he created it based on like a structure of therapy, a modality of therapy that's been around forever called family systems therapy, which is basically when a therapist comes into a family because there's kind of either an issue in the dynamics or an issue in one of the people in the family. There's something going on. And family systems therapy is when a therapist, instead of just seeing one family member at a time, they kind of come into the family dynamic and explore and interact with how the family is actually interacting with each other, instead of just saying like, hey, what are you feeling about your family? They actually say like, how is this whole interaction happening? What is each of the parts of the family playing with each other? Yeah.
Is it kind of like holistic, like looking at all different aspects?
Okay, so 1 second. It is very holistic, but okay. So basically he worked with family systems therapy for a while, and then he kind of started saying that this actually goes a lot deeper than just family dynamic. And he started to like wonder if actually within each individual person, we each have an internal family. So just like in an actual family, right, we all have a bunch of siblings and parents, and we all have like a role that we play, and we all have a way that we're affecting everybody else in our home. He started to understand and explore that actually within a human being, there is all of those parts too. He calls them parts of you, and each part of you plays a role in the person that you are. So when you are living your life, we like to think of ourselves as kind of like, especially in our society, as like one person. And like the moment that like somebody starts to have symptoms of being more than one person, they're like automatically diagnosed with like dissociative identity disorder, like
right. Or you know psychosis, what I mean?
Yeah. Or psychosis, exactly. Or just like odd,
right?
Like who are you? Like we're made to feel that like we're meant to just like kind of feel like one,
right?
Like that's
like you have a
fractured
sense of identity if you think you're a bunch of different things and not like one thing. So it's like kind of goes in the face of that. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. So, but what he kind of brings, what internal family systems brings to the table is that you aren't one. It's that you are essentially one in the sense that you have an essential and inherent sense of self. Later we'll talk about the Chassidus. It's like directly correlated. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But that you have an inherent essential sense of self. And in addition to that sense of self, you also have lots of parts of you. And some of those parts, I don't know how much you want me to get into it, but in like really short, I guess, like some of the parts manifest differently. So some parts are like really positive parts, like joyful parts and happy parts and excited and curious and all of those things, right? And some parts don't come across that way. They come across either angry or sad or lonely or aggressive or cynical or doubtful or all these different, or like they lead into action too, right? So like parts could be like, you should take another, keep drinking, or a part could be saying something like, keep staying in that toxic relationship. But essentially what like, and this I guess kind of sums it all together. I don't know if I'm making full sense right now because I'm trying to like explain it really fast, but what the main like hierarching theme of IFS is that there are no bad parts. So
sorry guys.
That's okay.
You could probably just mute yourself.
Where are you,
Rivka?
Yeah. Let me mute myself. It's a good idea. 1 second. How do I mute myself?
I like hear Israel in your camera. Like in your, like it sounds like Israel. Does it not?
Yeah, like that. How you doing? Yeah, for sure.
Well, you guys don't hear it now.
No, we didn't hear it. No. Okay, yes, Hannah, go back to what you were saying because I was so engrossed and have a million questions, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So basically, the hierarchy theme of IFS, the kind of thing that kind of like brings it all together and that allows the healing to happen, is that no part of you is ever bad. There are no bad parts. Just like somebody that really is working with a family, they would never say like, oh, that child is bad. What are they going to say? That child is showing negative behavior because they're reacting to something. They're protecting themselves from something. And so to do that, they're acting out. Like we all know that language by now, right? That like when a kid has a tantrum, they're not being bad. They're telling you something. They're trying to explain something to you. And the only language that they have is throwing a tantrum.
Right.
And it's the same thing. It's the same thing in our internal family of parts. No part of you is ever working against you. All parts of you are always working for you, and they're always trying to protect you. And like when you can approach yourself and all the parts of you from that place and what is that place that can see that? It's that place of self. Like when you can find that self of you that is kind of like the leader of all of your parts, and from that lens, not say, oh, those parts of me don't exist, but say, I want to explore you. I want to know why you are making me think that, or why you are telling that to me, or why you are making me react in that way, or, you know. And one of the main questions that IFS wonders about in reference to our parts is, you know, where did you learn that? Like, let's say you have a part of you that every time you get dressed just tells you that you don't look good, which is very common, especially amongst girls.
This like concept has come up so much in like just traveling here. Like I went to a meal, and we this family, and they're very like new parents. Like you could tell it right away. They're very like in tune, and they're talking about how like they just like everything. They're just so nervous to like instill like bad things in their child. So they talk about that, like every time our child like acts out, like we have to understand like they're trying to learn something. They're trying to express an emotion that they can't. Like it's just like it's them trying to like this and that. Also, a lot of people I spoke to is like talking about like in general, like are people inherently good or bad? Like, and when you like understand that people are like a kind of sometimes a product of their environment together with their nature, but also are a product of their environment. There's no inherently bad people. It's just like, what have they been through? What are they reacting to?
Yeah, I love how you explain your most internal deep self as almost a leader, because I think when you think about it like that, you understand, because everyone also knows what makes a good leader. You know the type of like bureaucratic, like angry leader that nobody really likes because they're not really exhibiting behaviors that a leader should, but like a leader that exhibits compassion and tries to like bring people together, that's a true leader. And so it's cool to reference like your most internal self like that, because it's hard to look at yourself with that compassion that I think you need in order to heal. So it's so beautiful.
Because you can look at other people like that, but when you're self, like I know for myself, I'm always like, what's wrong with me? Like what? And which is not, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think everyone should not necessarily blame other people for their problems. I think it's good to take responsibility, but it shouldn't be from like a negative necessarily perspective. It should be more from like a growth mindset, I guess. Yeah.
So I don't like to ever think about it in terms of like blaming other people, because when you really get into the heart of it, there's literally no blame, because what you realize is that person that caused all that not good stuff to happen to you, that was a reaction to their own experiences. And then it's kind of just this like cycle of everybody in creation, you know, like playing their role in this like collective journey that we're all on, this like cosmic journey that we're all on.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But I love what you were saying about leaders. Like, and I think that one of the main things that, at least within IFS, that like makes this good self-leader, that leads into like all of those qualities that you said, is like really the ability to say, where are you coming from?
Right.
You know, like not to just look at face value at like that voice that says that we're not good enough, or that we're not worthy of love, or that whatever it is. But like, to get deeper into it.
That's crazy, because when you ask that question, like what I see as like the fundamental like a fundamental question that's like underneath that question is that there's validity to that thing that you're questioning. There's a reason, and like maybe I don't understand it at the surface, but it like at least I'm trying to understand. And that's so like open, and it's so not how I approach myself with like
I mean, I have a question on that. Once you're done, Chaya.
No, go ahead. You cut me off. It's
no, just my question is like, so practically, like in general, we, on one side, yes, we're different from animals in the way where we have self-awareness and we can plan for the future and we can discern between good and bad. But at the same time, we do have an animal instinct of like fight or flight. And if somebody is, let's say, like taking advantage of you, right? Like, or like doing something to hurt your pride or make you feel like not good enough, stuff like that. So like, how do you go? I'll go from this, like some people, like they just come off as confident, be like, okay, I don't care about that person, F them, and like move on with my life. You know, how do you like channel that perspective of like, wow, compassion, where are you coming from? Let me like see your side of like, it's like, how do you fight that animal instinct? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so, I mean, that's like a huge, amazing question. I'm going to kind of switch it around though, from how do you fight the instinct of how you react to them? And I'm going to shift that to how do you fight, and you can call it the animal instinct, right? Like every time we say like nefesh bahamis, right? What we're essentially saying is natural reaction.
Right.
Like nefesh bahamis could literally be the same thing as your child self. It's the part of you that just reacts without thinking through if you actually want to be reacting like that, or if that is really the only way to react. It's just that natural. So I want to kind of shift that question from like, how do we stop naturally reacting to them, and shift it to how do we tap into the way that we are reacting? What is going on inside of me in that moment that I'm receiving that criticism or negative feedback or actual something mean happening to me or whatever it is, like.
Right.
And like
to kind of to just like question that natural reaction and that instinct to just be like automatically judgmental, I guess.
Right.
Okay, so sorry, Chana, respond.
I didn't like fully like, you don't need to say something and you're like, that's not actually what I meant to say. Right. It probably happens to you guys all the time. Oh my god. Yeah. You're very good though, by the way. I like just flowing with that. Like I get like so confused when that happens to me, but you guys are both very good. Thank you. Like you can't even tell that you didn't mean what you meant to say.
We sufficiently confuse everyone else as much as we confuse ourselves.
Okay, yeah, maybe move on for a second.
Okay, and I want to go off on all these tangents, but before we really get into the IFS and break it down and all that, I want to know, personally, are you training to become an IFS therapist or getting a certification if you can get one? And also, just to stream along with that question, why, if you're not, then why is it the specific like form of therapy? Why does it speak so much to you? And why are we on here talking about it? Like, why are you the representation of the IFS model? If you could go into that a bit.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so I definitely do want to be fully trained in IFS. I kind of feel like I think that personally, I think that the best training is actually doing the work yourself. And like I can tell you fully honestly, like IFS is the thing that brought healing to my life. Like a lot of things brought healing to my life, thank God. But like the fact that like I'm able to say about my life confidently and fully that like I live a joyful, calm life, like confident and that I believe that, because I'm not that IFS makes you be like, oh, now I'm never going to have a part that reacts negatively in the future, and I'm never going to be stressed again, and I'm never going to feel sad again, I'm never lonely again. Like that's the opposite of what IFS is. IFS is essentially saying you are going to feel all of those emotions because that's human. You have parts to you. What IFS allows you to do though is it allows you to find that center of self, and that self becomes the leader of your life. And it's like emotional just thinking about it, like how grateful I am to have to be in a place in my life where I can really honestly say that myself is my leader. And not all the time. I can go through a day of like feeling really bad, you know what I mean? But then I'm able to come back to kind of like regroup all my parts, or those parts that are experiencing life in that way, and explore them through the eyes of myself. And sometimes it's as simple as being like, I really hear you that you're experiencing that, like to myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like giving you tools.
Like
it's not
that, and like we can talk. It's total. Well, it's literally tools, but to me, it's like almost like that's okay.
It might be a lag.
It's
that's
like
why.
To me, it's like the ultimate tool because what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I think. Okay, I'm gonna answer your question. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep going into it. So I'm gonna try to answer your question. I would like to get trained in IFS, like specifically because if I ever do therapy, God willing, the right time in my life, like this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I do believe it's not so simple. It's not like a method necessarily, but the concept of seeing ourselves in this way. You know what I mean? Of knowing that every part of us that reacts is reacting for us, not against us. and using our inherent sense of self that we always have to see ourselves from that place of self. And like, to me, like, that's Mashiach. Like,
this is where the Chassidus part comes.
That's like the key. Well,
yeah.
Wait. So when did you start like IFS therapy?
I like heard about it when I was in school, but they don't really talk about it in social work school. It's not.
Yeah, I haven't. I literally when you wrote it on our chat, like that's when the first time I heard about it.
Yeah.
And then I searched it up.
And I think there's a reason for that. I think maybe this is controversial a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that the main reason why it's so controversial amongst like psychology and social work and all the, pathologies is because it's very non-pathological. Like IFS will look at somebody with dissociative identity disorder and say, yeah, you might need to be on medication in order to help your healing. It's not against medication in any way, but it's essentially saying there's nothing wrong with you. You are reacting to things that have happened to you.
Do you think it denies, I guess, your biochemical makeup in that terms then? Because wouldn't somebody who has a diagnosis be able to point to somewhere in their brain where this is being caused?
Yeah, so that's kind of the reason why I'm not like all my cards aren't in this boat. You know what I mean? Like I am getting my license in social work, and like I deeply believe in medication at the right time, and I do believe that like people need help within the biochemical makeup of their brain sometimes to kind of like even do healing work like this and to even begin doing healing work.
Because there's one thing to like have an emotional like disorder and stuff, but there's another thing to like literally have your life be like you can't function in life because of it.
Right.
So do you think IFS is better utilized by people who, I guess, I don't even know how to like describe that. I guess more like mainstream, because it sounds like everybody has these parts. Most people go through. So maybe
also, like, where's the line?
Yeah.
It seems like it crosses some lines.
Right. So according to IFS, the people that aren't necessarily mainstream, like somebody that was diagnosed with bipolar disorder or dissociative identity disorder or schizophrenia or whatever, like, or depression or anxiety, any of these, the way that IFS sees somebody like this is that their parts have become so enmeshed with themselves. It's something that we can talk about later, like that concept of like unblending apart from me, right? So like an addict, a lot of times they become the addict. I have become my need to control, the voices in my head or my insatiable loneliness. Like I am that, or I have become the depression. But in the meantime, is that essential truth? Not necessarily. And I think that anybody who is really seeking like wholeness and truth will admit to that person isn't depressed. They are experiencing such severe symptoms of depression that we are going to treat them the way that we're going to treat them with depression. You know what I mean? Like we're going to help them live their best life through like seeing it for what it is. But when you take a step back, you're really able to say like, it's not who this person is. It is how this person is experiencing their life right now. But I mean, I believe in healing, and I believe that there's no person that can't heal. But where does that belief come from? Why am I able to say that? And to me, that is the same message as IFS, which is that you are essentially whole. You are essentially a self, and part of your internal family is parts that have been really hurt in the past. And sometimes it's like generational stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it is biochemical stuff. But at the end of the day, that experience that you're having of yourself, in yourself, about yourself, as yourself, it's not your whole self.
It's not your true identity.
It's not your whole self, which is kind of the key.
But it is a part of you.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Right. And that's kind of like that balance there. Like
right.
You're not saying
it's exactly like a family.
But you're also not saying it is who I am.
Right. It's exactly like a family where like your siblings and they're a part of you, but it's not you. It's not the whole self of you.
Right. So let's talk about where this crosses over with Chassidus, because I think this is almost like Chassidus reformed into like a therapy. Yeah, exactly. But I think what I'm actually interested in what IFS says. What is that true identity? Then that sounds very, very religious, because we're talking about almost as if it's like like consciousness, God, that universal that everybody is. So what does IFS say? And then I guess what do you think, according, because you're influenced by Chassidus all the time, so kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah. You said that question so well. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Good job, Kyle.
Okay, so in Richard Schwartz's like work in his book and his books and whatever, it's actually funny to see, and I sometimes do wonder if
he was really
kind of just says this. Kind of, yeah.
You literally just read.
But also, if low-key, he's like reading the Talmud, like writing.
He for sure dabbled in like Kabbalah or something, you know.
For sure, he talks about it. He gives quotes from Kabbalah, and then he also gives like all of like the Christian quotes that are all really Jewish quotes.
Oh,
like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Like love thy brother like yourself. You're like, yeah.
Exactly. By the way, yeah, that's a huge component here. Whatever. Oh my God, there's so much to talk
about. Okay, go.
All, Hannah.
Everything.
Woo. Okay. He talks about it in the sense that when he started discovering that people are made out of parts, he found in his clients that they were always, that amongst all the parts, there was always one part, aka the self, that was beyond all the parts. And that when they were able to access it, they were able to find this place inside of them that he uses like 7 C's to explain it. Like, so like that was confident and calm and full of clarity and had connectedness and courage and like this like like you were saying, like that leadership. You know what I mean? And he says that like he found that his clients, no matter how distraught they were and how able they were to be diagnosed with whatever it is, like how buried in their parts they were, when they were able to separate themselves from those parts enough, right? What are we? Separate themselves. Like the wording comes naturally. They were able to find that self that no matter the trauma, no matter the self-talk, no matter the experience of themselves, always was unbroken. And was always able to be a friend and a leader and wonder about all the other parts.
So it's like
Rivka,
yeah.
There's like a lot of background noise. Sorry. I don't know how to like not say this on the podcast. There's like a lot of background noise in your coming from your mic. So maybe can you mute yourself until you have a question and then mute between the things? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. I know there was actually nobody here until now. But anyways, what was I going to say? Oh, so is like finding your, so is yourself kind of like the, I guess the positive side of you, and like is like all the negative things not yourself? Is that like where it kind of comes down to? And I guess in Chassidus, it's like the Nefesh HaBahamis, Nefesh HaLekos.
Such a good question too. So no, it's not like that at all. Actually, truth is that most of our parts are actually positive. Like yourself doesn't really have a personality. Yourself is just wholeness. Wow, it's so different now without the noise. I'm like distracted by the lack of noise. So yeah, like yourself isn't like,
sorry,
it's those things.
Sorry about the noise before.
That's okay. I was kind of enjoying it.
Okay.
I felt like I was like in a busy library.
Yeah.
Some podcasts have that, by the way, just like a running background noise, because it's kind of.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So that self, it doesn't really have a personality. It's basically, it's a really good word for it. Leader is a really good word for it. It's like, it's just like the I of who you are. Parts, like your how to, wow, I'm really distracted by the lack of noise. It's funny how that totally disoriented
me. Oh God.
Do you want me to go back into the room?
Should we like go on a different tangent and get back in? We have to find solutions, Rivka.
Maybe. But I guess like the it's kind of interesting because you're saying it's the lack of personality, which is like literally how we describe God in Chassidus. Like, it has quality. God, like we describe God with certain qualities, but like not limited by any of them at the same time.
Exactly.
So like
I mean,
I guess it relates to that.
This is really why I think you were saying IFS is so like not really in almost unscientific. It's very spiritual. So that I obviously understand why someone like you would be so attracted to it. But my question is, how does he square that circle? Because that seems like, how the heck does he go around explaining?
Good job. He circled back there.
Yeah.
Right. And like we said, like it's not, I mean, I'm assuming pathological means like, it's not like A plus B equals C. Is that what pathological means?
Pathological is like when you're diagnosing something.
Right.
So, like you're saying that this category is what it is.
Right.
Like she's a pathological liar. She is a liar. Like
you can't define, there's no so much definition.
There's like basically no definition.
Right.
Because you're saying that like these parts are not me. They're aspects of my identity, but I am never going to be summed up by one of these parts. Ever. But the thing is that okay, wait, 1 second. I'm going to answer your question because it's actually pretty cool. That basically at this point, like in his research and in his work and like in anything that you read, he uses the word God all the time. But he does it like really subtly. Like he does it in a funny way. I always laugh about it. Like he says like we have this self that, for lack of better words, is God-like.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Is he like an atheist?
I don't know if he's an atheist. I think that he just kind of knows that the general audience is going to be dismissive of his work if he says that, like, you have a piece of God in you.
Right. You have to, So you can't get religious on people.
Exactly. And I value the fact that he did that because it allows it to be more open to, like, more people can be receptive to his stuff. But yeah, how it has to do with Chassidus is, like, absolutely epic, in my opinion. Want like the full story or half the story?
I want you to say everything that you've ever wanted to say about this topic right now.
Okay.
Me and Rivka could just continue to talk so that we could provide that background noise that you need, and you could just go off, and we'll just, if you need that. Just kidding, though.
It's funny.
Yeah, like I'm not really sure how that would work.
How are we gonna listen? It's confusing.
Yeah, like it's too much. We're not wizards. But we could like maybe get more.
Maybe just like hum.
Yeah, but maybe we could get more specific.
That's so scary. Like we're doing some initiation.
Should we dance? For you in the background? Do you want me to go back in the room? Honestly, it was distracting for me.
No, I'm good.
But maybe do you need us to get like more specific with questions to like really?
No, I think we can flow with this. Tell me if I'm going off a tangent.
Go ahead.
Okay, like pause me and call me back in. Okay. You guys know this. Like, what is like the foundation of Chassidus? Okay, that's like it's an aspect.
Oh, I know. Wait. What is it called? No. That basically God is like infused with everything in this world. What's the Hebrew phrase?
Ein Lavad.
Right.
Ein Lavad. There is only ever has been and only ever will be God. And the truth is, it's not a Hasidic concept. It's really a Torah concept. But Kabbalah was, kind of like takes the gems from Torah and like allows us to actually understand them. So before Kabbalah, we didn't really get it so much, and now we actually get it. And the trippiest part about all of it is that like even science gets it now. Like I don't know if you guys like look into like string theory and like the whole concept of like 10 dimensions and like.
You know what's so funny? Every time we meet somebody here who is an atheist, we've gotten it so many times because we always ask people like, "Are you ex-religious? Oh, like, do you believe in God?" And everyone always says like, "Have you heard of quantum physics?" And we're like, "Oh, really? You're so original." And every single person that we talk to, we're like, "Do you believe in God?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Let me guess, quantum physics." And they're like, "Yeah, how did you know?" I'm like, It's like literally everyone who's like an atheist kind of goes to like the scientific side of like there being dimensions and there being like a spiritual, so to speak, like world.
So it's no judgment. For some reason, those people have parts of them that, you know, don't let them explore the depth of it all. And whatever, this is parts of me that are exploring it. Like, that was really judgmental. I said no judgment, and that was very judgmental. But
I personally think like it's just everyone has a different thing that they need to relate to. That's
true. I just think it's funny though, in the sense of like, we're all really saying the same thing and just using different words. Like, they're calling science what I call God.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I actually have this argument all the time. Or we used to, at least.
Tanya literally describes nature as anything that we can't understand. So, like, we look at the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, and we're saying, oh, nature. Oh, the fact that there's 10 dimensions to life, and it's nature, yeah. The fact that literally there is nothing, like, everything is made out of empty space vibrating. Oh, it's nature. And, like, I'm looking at that, and I'm saying, that's freaking God. Yeah. Like, like, what is that? If not unity amongst everything.
Yeah, or even people are like, we're in the mind of an alien. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's basically saying that there's a God, there's a higher power that's orchestrating everything. Like, you're just using something that's like not God, because I guess maybe religion kind of ruins it, where like there's a God that's controlling us and like wants us to do this, and that.
I mean, but like, yeah, true. Maybe we're just using different terminology for like what we think is there's a higher order or a higher belief. But at the same time, like, you can't. I don't think it would be right to say that we all kind of believe the same thing because someone believes, let's say, that we're like in a simulation, or if aliens are taking control of our minds, or if we're believing in a Jewish God or a secular God. Like, these are all different beliefs that have different outcomes on our behavior. And it's different versions, but but that's the foundation, and they lead to different people, and they lead to different things. So I guess maybe it's all the same at like the core, that we might think that there's something above us, but doesn't lead to the same type of lifestyle.
No, it doesn't at all. But I think as long as you think that, like, unless you think that all of our actions are completely like coincidental and nothing matters, other than that, then you kind of have to believe in this higher power or different dimension or afterlife. You know what I'm saying? Like, where our actions do matter, and there is a right or wrong type of thing that is not just created by society, you know?
It's so interesting.
Yeah,
I had this thought this morning. I had a thought. I went to visit my grandmother's grave this morning, and I had this thought. It was crazy. Like, I was like looking at her grave, and I was like, "Where are you?" I was actually with my mom. My mom was like literally talking to her. It was really trippy. I was just like standing there crying. My mom was like talking.
Right.
It was really an intense experience. But anyways, my mom was just saying, like, I hope that like you're together, whatever. She was like talking to her and my grandfather. And like, I was thinking to myself, like, I really don't know where you are, you know? But in that moment, like, I kind of felt deeply that like there probably is an afterlife, and that her soul is there, and that God is there, and that my grandfather's soul is there, and that like there's something going on, you know? And like an Olam Haba, like literally, like that there isn't just this reality, and that we don't just die. Like, and I was thinking how crazy of a thought that is, because like there's no way to prove it. But then I was just thinking, and it kind of made me laugh to think about this, but I was like, is it really crazier to believe that the creator of the world told us what happens after we die than to notice that like he created anything at all? Like, the fact that we're alive is absolutely crazy, like literally insane. And it's like, after that, why is it so crazy to believe that he told us something about the world and about afterlife?
Well, because like, there's absolutely no proof of it.
But there's no proof of anything. Like, everything is crazy. Like, literally, like the fact that we're born is insane. And then like we have a hard time believing that somebody that's dead will ever come back to life, right? Like Mashiach. Like,
right.
Oh, how could like fundamental Judaism believe, right? It's like that the dead are going to come back to life. And it's like, oh, how could that ever happen? But then like we see a baby being born out of like a freaking like.
It's crazy. I think about it all the time.
Semen and an egg, and you're like. So like, why is coming back from the dead crazier than that? It's not. It's just that we've experienced this and we haven't experienced that.
Because when we experience,
yes. I mean, I don't want to like.
I think that's a big difference. I think that's a big difference.
Like, obviously, and I think you know those differences. Like, I mean, there are rules and there are orders and there are orders to the world, and also there are like things that we know haven't happened in like the course of human history. So of course, like I want to believe in Chassidus, and it's like as crazy as somebody giving birth to a life from a semen and an egg,
like,
but
a baby could be born, but so then maybe I can fly tomorrow.
right. You know? Like you can't.
Maybe.
Chana's like, believe it.
It's happening. What do you believe?
No, Fred, you don't have to believe it. I'm just saying that the possibilities of life are literally infinite because I just don't take for granted that we're even here. And like I value that we're here and I believe that we're here. I just don't take it for granted. Like I don't see it as obvious.
There's just a difference between
what is our bodies? Like what are we? We have like life and consciousness surging through us and like that's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy enough that like everything else is like also crazy, but like not necessarily crazier.
I just think there has to be like a differentiation between like knowing something, like knowing that if, you know, once a semen and egg comes together, there's going to be a baby that's going to be developed, like that, you know, because we've seen it so many times.
Because we've believing
something versus believing something. Belief is always not, you don't know it. And I'm not saying that I think belief is perfectly good and people should have belief, but it's not the same as knowing.
I guess what I'm saying, I'm not saying that I believe. I'm saying that I feel like just as I know that when a semen and egg comes together, it's going to make a baby, I also feel like I know that it's not crazy to believe that other infinite possibilities are possible too. Like those knowings are the same. I don't know what it all is necessarily, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the concept that like I know that the world isn't a limited place.
Right.
Even I'm just sorry to like to bring this back for a second. Like even
please do.
Having done this work and like coming to a point where I am more alive in my life than I literally have ever been in all my 24 years of living. Like, and like that I am able to like my entire life has completely shifted. Like I can't even, it's crazy. And like, I didn't think that was possible. It's not even that I didn't think it was possible. I didn't even know it was something to maybe be possible. And like, I experienced something, and to me, like that's an experience of the infinite. Like it's an experience of something that I didn't know could happen and did. And it's like, what else is possible?
I think that mindset.
Like, why is it crazy to believe that my grandparents are together in some afterlife, or that Mashiach is going to come? Like, I don't know.
Right. I think the mindset of feeling like you can do anything and that you're not limited in the way that you can like apply yourself to your life. I think that is really, really rewarding and probably will only help you. But obviously there are some criticisms I have to what you said, but I don't really want to get into that. You guys are like, calm down. No.
Well, what'd you say?
I kind of want to. Yes, she's like, oh my
come
God.
to earth, Chana.
Yeah, let's bring it back down.
Stay down here.
I want to really talk about the IFS model. This question has been sitting on me ever since you started talking about it, and that's the whole compassion part, because I think we kind of live in a little bit of a society where compassion and loving yourself is all the rage, but there's also discipline and, you know, looking at yourself and seeing how you can improve and how you can be better. And I don't think that kind of approach to looking to self-betterment is always such with a strict wagging of your finger, but a lot of it I don't think is really like the verbiage used is compassion and all accepting and all encompassing. And I really kind of wonder how you kind of bridge those two together, because I don't necessarily think being disciplined and looking at yourself with like a sharp eye is a bad thing, but I don't see how something like that could really fit into a model that just tells you to love every part of yourself no matter what.
Okay.
Right. That was like my question before. Like, how do you just...
Amazing question. I just want to pause for a second and just take a moment to notice that we didn't talk about how Chassidus has to do with this, but it's okay. We can come back to it.
Oh, yes. I did want you to do like a little bit of a conclusive statement about, so maybe do that first and we can get back to that question.
No. We'll flow with this.
Okay.
Flow with this.
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to give you, let's use an example of a kid. Okay. Or actually, let's not even go there. Let's use an example of a part of, let's talk about an addict. Okay. Let's say an addict. Hold on, let's put this in the guy. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Okay.
We're ready.
So let's say a person, when they were a child, right? They had a feeling that they wanted to. They had. I'm going to use all IFS language and tell me if I lose you at any point, okay?
Sure.
A child is born, loving, joyful, happy, cries when he needs to, believes he's essentially worthy, right? All that fun stuff. Reaches out for their mother because they know on a deep level that, like, I'm allowed to reach out to adult for my needs to be taken care of. And also they have an essential need for connection, right? That self is always connected and desires connection. Let's say that 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, right? Now they have this part of them that is seeking connection and is seeking love from mommy. For whatever reason, mommy's really busy. And whenever or not even whenever, but most of the times, because if any parent is reading this, you really only ever have to be good enough. You don't have to be great. Like the expectation that a parent is always meant to be completely perfect is foolish and silly, and it's not what Hashem expects from us. But I'm talking about a situation where a mother really isn't, for whatever reason, isn't able to give to the child the connection that they need, right? So now you have this child that came home from school and had a hard day and wants to just say, Mommy, or it just needs to cry, let's just say, right? But they come in and see that the mother is completely overwhelmed, completely unable to handle them. And so what do they do instead? Hey, Mommy, how can I help you? Right? Or just they become fine and they go play in their room. Why? Because what that part of them needs is connection to mother. Mother does not give them the connection. Mother is giving them the feeling that's saying, I don't have time. I will not be able to hold you and your need for connection. What happens then is, in IFS language, there's this part of you called a protector, right? So now what you have is this protector part that jumps in and says, oh, child, little boy or little girl, make sure that you don't become needy to mother, because if you do, she won't love you anymore. All that child needs is love. All that child needs is connection to mother. But that protector, it only wants what's best for the child, right? It's not trying to do anything mean. It's just saying, it's just exploring, it's explaining what it thinks is going to happen. That if you act out right now and start to cry, mommy will get mad at you. Because maybe that's what happened in the past. Maybe the mother lashed out last time the child cried. Mommy will get mad at you. You need connection, so make sure that you keep all your emotions to yourself. Make sure you shut down this part of you that needs connection from mommy. And then what happens is that part that craves that connection, we call it that it's exiled. So maybe the part that was exiled is either the part that's craving connection or the part that, believes that it can share its needs. And that part, it's literally like parts of you like literally go into ghosts, and like you can see it very visually. Like imagine like within you there's like a jail cell, and the parts of you that so badly just wanted to express themselves and that were so natural to who you are, those protectors literally take them by the hand lovingly, really lovingly, and says, you need to go away now, because in order for you to get what you actually need, which is the love, you can't show up here. And the thing is, though, that those protectors often, imagine like standing by the jail cell, right? And now this child is growing up, and you have this part of you that you have this person, right? And then the part of them that, let's just go with, that wants to share their needs, right? Actually, you know what? Let's go with that seeks connection, that seeks relationship, reciprocal relationship. That part of them is behind the jail cell because every time that it tried, it was shut down, and it knows that if they're going to survive, if they're going to be able to, it's counterintuitive because if I'm going to be able to receive the connection, I have to hide my need for connection. You get how that happened though? All it actually wants is connection. But when I tried to ask for it, I was shut down. So in order to get it, I have to never ask for it.
It's kind of like the protectors are the jail walls. Like they create the jail.
Amazing. Yes, exactly. And this is kind of where the part that is so relevant comes in is how do the protectors create those jail walls? How do they make sure that the exile is never going to come out, that the exiled part is never going to come out? Because they need to take their job really seriously because they are responsible for you. And this is where it comes in that there's no bad parts.
Sorry, could you explain what the exile is again? It's the part of you that you need that is like not being expressed?
Exiles are positive parts of you that you had to hide because if you let them be seen, you were at risk of something.
Okay.
So let's say it happens to a lot of girls and boys, probably even more boys than girls with sexuality. If I allow, especially from communities, right? Like if I let myself be seen as a sexual being, I'm going to be shamed and shunned. Mm-hmm. So I have to kind of hide that part of myself, even kind of to the extent that I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. But what is that voice that's saying that? It's the protector part of you. It's not you. You are so much more than, that the self of you knows that sexuality is amazing and is God-given and is like wonderful at the right times and in the right places. But protector part says, that when you were 11 years old and you were shamed for whatever it was that you experienced, protector part says, if you're going to survive, you need this part to hide. If you're going to survive, you need to, sometimes it's literally, you need to believe that you're ugly.
So you assume the identity of the protector? Does that make sense?
You assume the identity, yes.
Okay, so you're like kind of stuck with this like belief that the protector kind of always just keeps shouting in your face like, oh yeah, it's shameful to think of yourself and think of sexuality in terms of anything else. So that's what you assume.
You become the voice of the protector. So I cannot be sexual. I cannot show this part of myself, or else I will be shamed, or else I will die. Sometimes it's literally like, it feels like death, like I will die. Sometimes it's like perfectionists too. Like I just saw it happen with somebody that I know. Like she has a business and she was trying to sell her product and it didn't come out the way that she wanted. And she literally reached out to me and said, like, I literally feel like I'm going to die. What was happening there? The part of her that knows that she doesn't need to be perfect, that part was exiled. The protector says, if you want to survive, stay perfect. Make sure that everything that you sell is 100% positive and 100% exactly like everybody's expecting from you. When it didn't really work out that way, the protector was threatened, right? And she literally said, she's like, I feel like I'm going to die.
Wow.
You're not going to die, but the experience is so real. Or like, let's say, sorry, there's so many examples and we all relate to different ones. But let's say somebody, is experiencing that they've exiled the part of them that craves connection. And the protector says, no, you're not worthy of connection. Sometimes protectors they'll literally take on anything, any sentence that'll keep you from experiencing that exile. That's how desperate they are to keep you safe. So, like, I've experienced this personally in my life, like that feeling of I'm not worthy of love. What was happening? It was that's always, if you're not worthy of something, it's your protector. You're worthy of everything.
No, of course.
You are.
But I'm saying, isn't the protector just saying, like, don't express that you need love because then this and this will happen to you?
Excellent. Yes. But if protectors tell me, don't express that you need love, I'll just say, like, F you. I want to express that I need love. So what they need to do is they create a story based on my experiences. And then that story becomes what I end up thinking about myself.
But why in the first place?
Tell me what to do. They have to have a reason,
right?
Why they're going to say drink yourself to death or commit suicide or don't allow somebody to be your friend or stay in a toxic relationship.
So, but why in the first place does the protectors like care so much about? Why in the first? Is it just like in this, according to this IFS, is it just like that we naturally seek the like approval of others, and then the protectors are trying to protect that, like the disapproval from others? Or like why do protectors care so much about, you know what I'm saying, the approval of others?
Well, for some it's the approval of others. For some it's connection to others. For some it's feeling good enough. Like everybody's going to have different things. Right. Like the fact that you said that probably means that that's kind of relevant to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like personally, I don't really relate to that. Like I have no protector telling me care about approval of others.
Right. No, but I'm
make sure that you never.
But I'm saying like just one thing. I'm just saying like it's not. I mean, I use the word approval, but I'm saying like in the way you described it, where like, oh, if I express my love, this person will react in a negative way.
Yeah.
So we're kind of just born looking at the reaction of others. Like that's just, I guess, human nature.
We're born wanting to have connection.
Right.
Rivka, that's which actually brings us to the Chassidus of all
what you're getting
like,
to. It's like we're born with there's going to be lacks in our life, like lackings, right? Like that's kind of life. We're going to go through life feeling like at the end of the day that we're doing something's wrong, and we need to fill those spaces in with whatever, or get things in order to get. It's kind of like, I think about it like in the Enneagram. Like everybody has like a super ego, a basic desire, but in any case, I have a question, Chana, and that is, so IFS is
wait, Chaya, Chaya, will you remember a question? I just want to respond to it for one second.
Okay, go ahead.
Because it was such a brilliant question about
sorry,
why do the parts care so much?
Okay.
And really the reason is because we have such because our self, neshama, God, unity of it all, self, because it so deeply desires to be one with ourselves, one with the world, one with the people around us, to live in that state of connection, it will do anything to maintain that. Now, for different people, different things come in the way of that connection. So for you, it might be that when I don't have approval from others, I don't have connection anymore.
Right.
For some people, it might be when I don't feel, when I'm not in in a relationship, I lose connection.
Right.
But because we're so, I don't like using the word hardwired for connection because it makes it seem like we're like robots, but like, because we're so inherently in need of connection, protector parts are literally going to do anything to allow you to stay connected. The catch-22 is that they're actually
holding you back. Right.
Right.
And which is so interesting
but they don't
about
realize
this.
That.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is that like this kind of answers the whole nature nurture thing, where we're all born with one specific kind of need, I guess, in regards to others, whether that's approval, whether that's connection, whether that's love. And that goes into the Enneagram of like what you fear and what you desire. And the protectors are kind of your nurture, where if your parent shamed you for this and that made you, then you suddenly build all these behaviors.
I kind of see them as your nature more. And that was one of my questions. Like that was what I was going to ask you before, Chana, about, I think IFS is directly, it's pulled from psychotherapy. So a lot of this is based off of experiences that you've had in your childhood specifically, I've read up. So my question is, I guess if you heal by breaking down the stories that those protectors create based off of your experiences. And my question is
specifically your internal experiences. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, it's fine.
But I think that it's a really important distinction that you're not. It really matters quite less the things that happen to you, and much more the way that you experience those things.
Right.
So if I was bullied in 5th grade, the fact that I was bullied is the experience. But what I'm really focusing on while I'm experiencing IFS, while I'm getting into the depths of me, is
what beliefs you assume.
How you internalized it.
Exactly. How I internalized it, which seems so obvious. And that's why it's so cool, because like it's so intuitive.
Right.
Like obviously it's all about the way you see things. Obviously it's all about what that made me believe about myself. But that's all we're saying really. We're saying that the way that you see yourself and the way that the experiences have led you to experience yourself, that it really matters. and that you're able to heal through having that, not what you were saying before, like, what if we just see ourselves all compassionately, and what if you ever need that hard line of boundary? It's like, because you're seeing it's like, it's the same thing, really. Like, we're through allowing ourselves to see ourselves with compassion, and through allowing ourselves to see that none of the parts are bad and that they're all here for us on some level, that allows us to draw boundaries with them.
That's
if
so
I look at a child,
interesting. It's like, you once you realize that, like, these are protectors, so it kind of gives this like connotation of like it's trying to protect you from your feelings, then you can channel them in a positive way. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
That's really
and what
cool.
You end up realizing, and you end up being able to ask them once you get close enough. Oh my God, there is so much to talk about. We don't have any time, but it's fine.
We're good. We can go.
What you end up realizing when you get close enough to them is that they actually have something that they would much rather do than protect you in the way that they're protecting you. So, like, let's say like somebody, has that like internal critic that's constantly like, don't even risk starting a new job because you're just going to fail, right? What it has it exiled, that's protecting this exiled part of like, if I fail, then I'll like, of wanting to try something new, because when I tried something new last time, or when I was 4 years old, I failed, I was shamed. I will now protect this part of me that wants to try things new, and that is able to try new, and that is able to be courageous, because if I do that, then I will die. Right? But when you're able to get close enough to that part and let it know that, hey, right now, guess what? I'm not that 5-year-old kid anymore. You're able to, when you talk from that place of self, I'm good now. And I know that even if I fail, I'm still going to be okay, because guess what? I have a self. I am a self that is essentially okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to fail, because really the older that we get and the more that we heal, we really do become less afraid. We do become more ourselves in terms of our courage and our clarity and all that,
right.
But we end up then getting enmeshed with those old voices that say that we're like stuck in our 5-year-old selves sometimes.
The thing that's a little bit hard for me to digest about this, and I want to talk about it, kind of go into the healing process itself, like taking the protector and sitting it down and being like, okay, let's figure out why you keep telling me this story, and then you kind of go into whatever fragments of experiences it's holding on to, I guess, from your younger self, from maybe even from your older self. But my thing is, I wonder how simple those stories get, and maybe it works for some people because they have a great memory, or not even, or maybe as you're breaking down the protector, you can unlock more memories. But my thing is, like, what's if your story is such a composite that it's more than a composite of the experiences that you felt and you felt badly from? Like, what's if it's these things you can't articulate, and then it's just kind of like something that's perpetuating in yourself all the time? Like, I find it hard to I think break it down into one story and then be able to,
but I think that's why it's
different.
I think that's why it's different from psychotherapy, where like psychotherapy, you're really trying to figure out what happened in your childhood. Literally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chana, but like, I feel like what I'm getting from this is that the protectors are just like your emotions that you're feeling. And then you can be like, well, I know maybe even if I don't remember the exact experience, I know that this is something that is not helpful to me, and it's like getting in my way of like functioning as a healthy human being. So I know that this is like as a result from something, and I'm just going to try to
right. So then, Chana, how do you heal from that? Yeah. Do you just talk yourself out of it? Because I'm trying to actually think about how I would apply this in my life. If, let's say, I'm always feeling lonely, and there's no logical reason for feeling lonely because I'm surrounded by so many people I love, how do I get myself to stop feeling that way according to IFS?
Okay. That was very cool what you guys just did, because I feel like it's very good job.
Good teacher, Chana.
Oh my God, amazing.
I'm trying here. I feel like I'm like so pressed for time. I could talk about this for like 8,000 hours. Like, you don't get, guys, how much I'm not saying. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like infinite here. So crazy. Because we're talking about something infinite. You know what I mean? We're talking about essential point that you have an infinite self. That's where that's the foundation of this all. So like, that's why I just lead this, whatever. Chaya, the whole thing about like the story, the cool thing about IFS to me is that like it's not really like stories are important and remembering what happened to us is important, but only in the context of why it gave you the emotional and thought experience that you're having now. So like you don't need to remember every detail of every story. It's really not the point. Like this is so opposite of Freudian, it's crazy. Like there's no like, you know, like our only point, literally in a session of IFS, and at this point, like I'm not in therapy right now with IFS, but at this point, like I do it to myself, kind of like all the time. Like it's kind of funny.
Like, to be honest, are you doing it right now?
Is this just
I'm not that good at
multitasking? Chana Rahmani IFS therapy session right now? Is that what I'm experiencing?
I kind of wish, but no. No, that would be cool. But yeah, literally the way that IFS goes, like the way that a session would work, essentially, is you're not, the only time that you bring up stories is when your parts want to. Meaning, what happens in a session is that I, with utmost compassion and with utmost, literally as if I was talking to a child, right? Like imagine a child therapist comes into the room and the child gives the sense that they're just not interested in talking about. The therapist knows what the child needs to talk about because they know the child's story. But the child, for whatever reason, isn't ready at that point. Literally, when you're experiencing this process in yourself, you need to have that respect, the same way you would respect the child in that moment. And then you start to wonder, what would a therapist do for a child in that moment? They wouldn't say, tell me anyways. They might ask them, why don't you want to tell me? Why don't you want to talk about this? And if even that the child's not ready for, they might ask, what do you want to talk about instead? And if even that the child's not ready for, they might say, I don't mind just sitting here with you. I'm comfortable just sitting here with you. And we have to have, in order for like this process to work in ourselves, we need to have that level of respect and compassion because our parts are carrying a shitload for us. Like they're carrying so much. Imagine how much you've been through. So that part of you that is standing there in front of, like what you were saying about your loneliness, right? The part of you that's saying,
oh my God, just outing me here. I was using a hypothetical, but
sorry.
yes.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, we all experience
hypothetical, asking for a friend.
Exactly. I'm asking for rivka. Rivka, didn't you talk to me? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, my loneliness.
Good one. Blame it all on me. Yeah.
Okay, guys. I know you were talking about me. It's okay.
No. Absolutely. Talk about it in terms of me. Yes. If I feel lonely, how do I stop? So go ahead.
If I feel lonely, right? What is essentially happening is I have a protector part standing in front of because I don't believe that we're essentially lonely. I think that essentially we are that self that is connected, and that like those moments that you've had that you like, sometimes it happens to me like on a subway and it's rare because subways are usually very isolating, but it's like you look around and you're like, holy crap, I'm so connected.
Dude, I feel that too.
I'm so not alone. It's right.
Mm-hmm.
That is self. Self is hopeful and happy and in love with life and the people around you, and self knows that you do have people that love you. I do have people that love me, right? But for whatever reason, there is a protector standing in front of that jail, right? Saying, you need to feel lonely. Make sure that you don't feel connected. And we're not going to really fully get into it now. I mean, you could if you want to, but in order to even address that part of you and to begin to address that part of you, you need to have two things. First of all, you need to be in yourself. And not in yourself like in your body. I mean in yourself like in your capital S self. Why? Because sometimes, otherwise it kind of just becomes a parts war. Like let's say you come over to that part of you and you're like, you're making me feel so lonely and you're so annoying because now I, feel lonely and I hate feeling lonely because when I'm lonely, I'm sad, and when I'm sad, I am in pain, right? That's not yourself. That's another part of you that hates the part of you that's making you feel lonely. And it's a very valid part, and that part also needs to kind of be explored. But when you want to talk to a part of you and wonder about it, you need to be in yourself, because otherwise your part's not going to trust you. It's like a bully coming over to the child that's bullied and being like, tell me why you're upset. What are you gaining there? But if an adult comes over to the child that's being bullied, and a compassionate adult that the child has a relationship with, and that the child trusts, and the adult, maybe even the adult will remind the child, you can notice that I have been there for you throughout your life. And I haven't always been perfect, because sometimes the self gets hijacked. We aren't always in ourselves. And so our self doesn't always come to the rescue when we need it to. But I'm here for you now. I'm here for you now, and I want to wonder. I'm curious about you. I'm curious why you want me to feel that I'm disconnected from the people around me. What are you gaining from that experience? You know, what are you protecting me from?
So you know that it's yourself.
Why do you want me to experience this?
When you feel connected, is that like kind of what it sums up to? And practically, what does that mean?
That's a kind of a trick question, because it's like, you know that it's yourself when you feel connected, but not when you feel, it's actually, I'm using his words now actually, but it's not when you feel connected, it's when you feel connectedness, which is subtle but different. Because it doesn't mean that when you're in yourself, you feel like, I'm fully in love with everything and everybody.
Right.
But when you're yourself, you trust that all the parts of you are okay. And you're not coming in to blame anybody. And you're not even coming in to blame anybody around you. Like, it's really a calm place of like adulthood and like leadership and compassion.
And does IFS like
curiosity? Does
it believe in like surrounding yourself with people who make you feel fully like yourself, and like that connectedness, or does it promote like going into the uncomfortable positions and like kind of fighting through that?
I don't know if I can like talk for IFS there, but my feeling on that is like, if you don't feel like you can be in a difficult situation because it's making you extraordinarily uncomfortable, then like always be kind to yourself. Like that's been my motto since I was like 18. Thank God. I don't know where I got it from, but I do believe it. Yeah.
It's interesting. Me and Rivka actually talk a lot about like the space between reacting and like stimulus, like the space between that, and how you have that freedom there that most people don't realize you do. And it's themes throughout all the major, we talked about it in Viktor Frankl's book. He like outlines that. And I think in a way that's what may be the hardest thing about applying IFS, is that there's so much you have to like take a back seat in doing while you're trying to better yourself. It's so much like approaching, it's so much like realizing, and then, oh my God, like taking another step back and be like, I just realized that I reacted that way, and now I have to watch that reaction so I can question it next time I react that way, and also approach it with compassion. It's like a lot of like
work.
It's a lot of mental space to stretch out.
Yeah. I don't know if it's taking a back seat. I think it's more taking action than taking.
I don't mean taking a back seat as in letting it run free. I mean taking a back seat as in being an observer, and being observer to yourself is and creating extremely like difficult. Literally stretching. Yeah, like talking from personal experience here. I just think that I don't know. You're basically. I wonder if people who have not such an incredibly high self-awareness, which I think I can be in that category, can really apply such a model to themselves. Or if you're in a teen, like I don't know if I as a teenager could have used this. Does that make sense?
You have the exact right amount of self-awareness that you need. If there's a part, and it's funny because like I don't, thank God, Hashem should continue to bless me that like I don't like IFS on the people that I see. Like it's not my personality. Like I just see people as people. Happens to be that right now after talking about this for an hour, it's like very much in my mind. And like as you were talking about that, I was just wondering in myself, like what part of you is reacting to this in a doubtful way, and in a way that is making you think that you can't do something like this. You know what I mean? And that it's going to be like too much constant self-evaluation that you might not have the resources for, or that you might have like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like a constant like back and forth. Like I feel like you could go crazy I don't know.
If you're going crazy, though, you're not doing it right.
Okay, that's comforting.
If you're going crazy, you're not doing it right. Like, I've always said that about Chassidus and about Yiddishkeit in general. If Yiddishkeit is stressing you out, you're not doing it right.
Right.
If avoda is making you feel anxious and overwhelmed, it's not avoda. It's your own issue. You know what I mean? Take a step back, wonder why you're getting overwhelmed, and then separate yourself from that thing.
Right.
Until you're able to reapproach it in a more gentle and calm and compassionate way.
Chaya, do you how much longer do you want to go for? And I mean, we can go for longer, but I just,
yeah.
Should we conclude, or do you?
Yeah, we should.
I can do like a sum up if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would want like a conclusion of, first of all, like how people can find out more about this, and maybe books or something, and also just like
key concepts.
Like the key concepts, the basic takeaways that people should
know about IFS. Wow, we just finished each other's sentences there. That was nice.
Sandwiches. That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, books. I actually have it in front of me. I have a bunch of things highlighted that I was planning on referencing. I didn't look down once.
Oh my gosh.
Not as bad. There were so many tangents. It's called No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. If you're just discovering this stuff, I suggest this. But I actually just gave my other book to somebody. If you're in a relationship, there's a book called You Are the One You've Been Waiting For. Oh, it's like the best thing ever. Basically what it does is it reorients your mind to start seeing your reactions to your partner as reactions to yourself. So now when he triggers you, or when you get triggered by him, you start to reframe it to actually.
Oh my God, you know what this is
like? Explorative journey of like, oh my God, I'm reacting to my internal parts, and like I get to now. I think that, and honestly, maybe this isn't for everybody. It really might not be for everybody, but to me, like it's one of the most exciting things to be able to wonder and to think about that I have this internal world full of individual, beautiful beings. And it's all connected. It's all one big story. And like, I get to be curious about this life that Hashem blessed me to be inside of. You know what I mean? Like,
first of all, I wonder if the movie
Inside
Out was based off of this. I wonder if like it's, it's very similar.
Yeah,
for sure. And we actually had I wonder that
also
really
the song in Frozen. You are the one you've been waiting for.
It's kind of fun, almost.
Frozen 2.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm like going on a tangent on my own here.
Yeah, sorry. Go.
Yeah. No, I'm saying you're right, Chana. I like looking at it like that. It's fun. It's almost like it's fun to kind of like like dig into yourself, and also realize like what protectors end up becoming so loud that they take so much of your identity. Like my skepticism is a huge protector for sure. Like I'm already gonna do the internal work, but like just like Rivka, you what?
Oh, I judge people all the time.
Too. Yeah,
skepticism,
crazy.
Judgment. I'm always like, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, like
Oh my God,
it's like what's that about?
There's a really loud protector inside of you that's judgmental.
Yeah.
And the funnest part about it, the way that it gets even more fun is like when you kind of start to have these experiences of low key, like I've never done shrooms, but like when people explain their shroom trips, I'm like, oh my God, I kind of experience that sometimes.
Such a
no, but for real, because like when you're able,
I've never done acid, but it's like literally just the same experience.
I've never done cocaine, but now
but now I don't need to.
No, I kind of feel like I don't need to, honestly.
Right.
Because like when you're able to get to that place
we spoke about this. Because we spoke about drugs on one of our episodes that actually got lost. It was a shame, but technical difficulties. Sorry. But we'll come back to it again. But our whole discussion was like pro and against drugs. And like obviously people see things when they're on drugs, but is it really long lasting? And when you do that work on yourself and you can reach a place like you do when you're on psychedelics and becoming like seeing yourself.
Literally, what is psychedelics?
It's
what
like
is psychedelics? Psychedelics is when you're able to see yourself. Egolessness. But what is ego? Sorry, I keep saying the same thing, but what is ego? Ego. Exactly. We think of ego as this like other thing inside of us that is there to get us. It's not. Ego is literally just it's parts of you that are trying to protect you. There's nothing bad in you. You are really good and like really whole and beautiful.
And you know what it also reminded me of that we learned in Chassidus to connect it? It was like what the Rebbe said about like if you see something bad in someone else, you're really seeing it within yourself. Like it's kind of like a mirror within yourself.
Yeah.
Which is what you said before. Like the way you're reacting and you're like, oh, this person is so disgusting to me. I remember I had this in the beginning of seminary and I spoke about this. I was having a really hard time like with social stuff. And in the beginning, I like really blamed it. I was like, this person is like, everyone's really like not nice here. And nobody like, and I was like, wait, like what am I feeling now? Like why? And I think it really, and obviously I didn't know it was IFS, but I think IFS really helped me through seminary.
I love that.
I think that this thing I knew nothing about really helped me.
Because I definitely had that thought process of I was like, okay, I need to switch this around to like look within myself versus.
That's so intuitive, Rivka. Like impressive. Seriously.
I can't believe that it came to me, and thank God it did because I don't know.
So powerful.
But
listen, Chana, we're gonna absolutely have to do a part 2 so you can get to all your highlighted points. I don't know if there's something else you wanted to say. You could totally.
Yeah, I wanna bring it back for 1 second to like the Hasidic component, and then like really a few sentences. I think just that. Wow, it's a lot of pressure to say that I'm only gonna say a few sentences.
But I'm gonna try. Yeah,
I know. That is my protector. You see that? Protectors come through us all the time. But like imagine right now, even right now, literally in this moment, I just said something that wasn't authentic to myself and that I feel a little bit embarrassed about. Full story. But even in this moment, I didn't even become embarrassed in my body, like even in my cheeks, because very quickly I was able to look at it and be like, thank you for showing up for me in the way that you did. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I am not embarrassing. This part of me wanted to help me in some way. And so it came forth in that embarrassing way. All right. Compassion. Okay. We'll move on. Everything's going to be fine. And I won't need to like explore the depths of it right now and remember every story that happened to me in my childhood. But it's like that overarching theme of like, can I bring myself to the point where I'm able to see all of the experiences in my life and all of the emotions that I experience in my body and all the thoughts that I self-talk myself into, you know, through the lens of none of these are working against me. You know, just as in the world, like what do we talk about when Mashiach comes? Mashiach is literally when we're going to look in the mirror and see Hashem. We're going to see Hashem as everything. That there's no like if Mashiach, right? I mean, this is like the Rebbe's last mimer, but it's also like core to like everything in Chassidus. That like if Achdus Hashem, if you're like so holy and you're saying, oh, God is everything, and whoa, yeah, tripping on God being everything, but there's a part of you that isn't part of that experience, right? Like God is everything except for my desire to sin. God is everything except for the part of me. I remember like when we were kids, it was like, oh yeah, God is everything. But when I listen to not Jewish music, suddenly I'm like discounted from that. Or like girls are made to feel that all the time. Like I can be part of Judaism unless I'm not tznius. If I'm not tznius, then like how could I? Like what's happening there is it's not unity. It's not true unity because unity includes all of you. And if there is one God and that one God is everything, then all of everything that we could ever possibly experience is part of that same God, is part of that same unity. But that doesn't mean that we stop seeing things as individuals. It's like because everything is God, we have to see them as God is creating them to be, which is as the individual that it is, and as you with the tznius stuff that you're going through, and you with the sexual stuff that you're going through, and you with all the different aspects of life. All of that is part of one God.
You could be working on one thing and simultaneously being like lacking in one area in the other area. You be strong. And
that part that you're lacking in is as much part of the bigger picture of the unity of Hashem as the part that looks godly.
Right.
And it's the same thing with us. And I guess I would conclude with this is that like I just give us all a blessing, myself included, because yeah, like my life has changed since doing this work, but like it's constant and like it's literally a constant process. Of really just like being able to see, to look at ourselves and see all the different aspects of who we are and of our stories, really, and of the way that we experience ourselves, you know, and to just like notice with that compassionate self that no part of me is bad, and no part of me is ugly, and no part of me isn't worthy of love and respect and joy and every good thing, you know, and to just get curious about if there is a voice that's saying opposite of that. Where did you learn that? Why do you think that? And like at the right time, with the right, and sometimes it takes support.
And gently kill it.
Funny.
I mean, at the end of the day,
no,
right?
No, never. We never kill a part of ourselves. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but no, I will not take that even as a joke.
Okay. No problem.
No, nothing needs to die. Nothing needs to die, but sometimes things get to be reframed.
Exiled forever.
Parts of us get to be unexiled, and the parts that are protecting us get to take on their true roles. So
yeah,
that part of you that's making you feel disconnected and that's making you feel like I need to stay lonely, eventually you're going to be able to ask it, what do you actually want to do? What do you actually want? Because right now you think that to protect me, you need to make me feel connected, you need to make me feel lonely. But imagine if you knew that I was going to survive, and not only survive, but I was going to thrive if I believe that I am connected. Then what do you want to do? And then maybe, you know what it might tell you? Oh, well, then I want to call a friend.
Right.
I want to tell you to go surfing. Like, I don't know what it's going to want to tell you to do, but all the parts of us are only here for us. So when we can reframe what we actually need from them by telling them that I am good, and I'm not that 5-year-old self that is at risk of being disowned by my family. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I'm a strong, independent, confident, courageous, beautiful woman, and I can hold all my parts. I'm strong enough for that because I'm rooted in God. And just as God holds the world, holds all the parts of the world, I can hold all the parts of myself. I'm strong enough for that. So yeah, I bless us all to have that compassion and curiosity. And it's a lot, but it's also exciting because then you can feel like you're on shrooms.
Exactly. If anything. Rivka,
that
do you
was
have
amazing.
anything? Yeah.
Kind of kidding, kind of.
I just want to say that that was really cool, and I think it really, really related to me, and I'm 1,000% gonna, first of all, learn more about this and also like use the tools in my own life. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You completely
and with
echo
all
that.
our followers.
It literally is. I think it's universal that something like this could help anyone. I think it was beautiful. You explained it so well. So thank you so much for coming on. This was great. And we're definitely going to have to do a part 2. Like, we got to get to those highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much. But that's part of it. You know what I mean? That like the voice in me that's saying, oh my God, we didn't finish everything that we needed to. Like, just like that curiosity of like, maybe I don't need to be hard on myself.
Yeah.
Like it's that constant coming back to self, constant coming back to like, I'm actually really good. Cause we're all really good. like, and really really wonderful.
So beautiful.
Really cool.
All right. Thank you so much, Khan.
All right. I love you both. Thank you for having me here today.
Bye.
I feel like I'm like leaving a studio. Really, I'm in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a wrap.